You're live on Scottish Phone In. Who's that?
Thank you, it's Kareem, Scotty. How are we?
Kareem, how kind of you to ring. Lovely to hear from you.
Hello, Scotty. I'm well, thank you.
Kareem, I'm glad I got all that sorted out, and apologies to you for last week, that ringing and ringing and ringing.
No. Listen, Gremlins, whenever there's any technology, I've just bought a brand new phone this week, so I'm getting my head around a lot of the stuff as well. So whenever there's any new technology, it's always just getting used to it, isn't it?
Well, my phones get so hard work because of the new Glasgow Essentials, which I believe you've seen.
Yes.
You know, and yes. Boy, is that doing, but we need everyone following it, because in about 3 months' time, we'll probably be going live, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that the build-up to that will be very exciting as well. As you always say, tell 10 to tell 10.
Tell 10 to tell 10. And I mean, we popped up Lord Roberts on his horse yesterday.
Yes.
Just yesterday afternoon, just popped round to the park, because that was a big saying, Kareem. If somebody said, do you have a Phillips screwdriver? No, but I've got a picture of Lord Roberts on his horse. That was a sort of fun saying all over the UK. And I had an old actor had come up to do a show in Glasgow. And I said, well, come and stop at mine then. We'll set you up. You've got plenty of room. And I said to him on the Sunday, would you like to see Lord Roberts and his horse? And he went, tell me more. And I took him to see it, and he was just blown away,
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Oh, Scotty, not to go into detail.
Right.
But a lot of the media just now, and I know you're quite passionate about this, not obviously for things that have been happening, but not to go into detail about it, but they're saying this is now the start and the end of the monarchy. What are your thoughts on that at all?
Well, I think there is a movement afoot to bring down the monarchy. And this has been always the case. The monarchy's always been on varying degrees of a sugary nail. And I think the last Queen Elizabeth, because she was so young when she ascended the throne, because she was so young, she really made an impact after the Second World War, because people were just feeling so down and the country was virtually bankrupt. How politicians don't learn that war will bankrupt you. It will make the very, very, very wealthy even wealthier by selling armaments and fighting, but it will bankrupt the country, and as a politician, it'll put you in charge of nothing.
Well, with a policy regarding that, Scotty, it means that you always need to be at war somewhere in the world in order to make that money. It's disgusting.
So there is, again, a strong movement afoot, but a lot of the people shouting for the monarchy to be brought down don't understand it. They have virtually zero knowledge and understanding of how the monarchy works. Now, at the moment, they're fixated on individual members of the royal family. They're fixated on that. How's the king reacting? How's this one reacting? How's that one reacting? The monarchy, the crown, is not about individuals. The individual sitting on the throne is the curator and custodian of the crown. The crown is our symbol of authority. As you know, the crowns, Scotland took over the English crown in 1603. Mary, Queen of Scots' son, who was baptized Catholic and then baptized Protestant, he was the dual crown holder, the first one of holding both crowns. But Westminster being Westminster, they've chipped away at Scotland's influence, saying, no, the crown's an English thing. The royal family themselves have made errors in speeches and things by saying they're the King of England or the Queen's the Queen of England. Yeah? So that doesn't go down well in Scotland. And just today, I thought, if for instance, the time is up for the Windsors. Never ever think about doing away with the crown until everybody has the knowledge, because it's apolitical. It's a power superior to politics. Yeah. And it also represents a power superior to mankind. Yeah. So it's getting up there. And in Scotland, as you know, 1306 wrote to the Pope. 1306, Robert the Bruce crowned King of Scotland, and then and that was about, the modern monarchy in Scotland was about 300 or 400 years old by that time. And then 1320, the aristocrats, the Declaration of Arbroath, writing to His Holiness the Pope and saying, do you mind if we as Scots choose our own king? Now, it might be an idea, Kareem, to say, well, okay, two birds, one stone. I've always said you can split the parliaments, but you should never split the crown. But perhaps is it time for the Scottish crown to re-emerge, brought in by the Scottish people? Because virtually everybody can read and write now.
Yeah.
Now, there's a guy saying Charlie is doing a great job, then King Billy will continue. Now, King Billy was a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful man. If you think there's stuff going on now, King Billy would just have absolutely shocked the world if the news had been around at the time and started digging. So you've got to say, okay, what's happening with the crown? What do we do about it? We certainly don't abolish it, but I can see changes coming. You see, America doesn't like the power of the crown because they've been exercising it on America for years. So America's been dancing to the empirical tune. And Mr. Trump is not keen on that at all. He's a Republican, but he will also know that after the American War of Independence, Bonnie, Prince Charles Edward Stuart, yes, the son of James II, or grandson of James II, the Young Pretender, 1746, America wanted him after 1776 to be their king. So America is kind of if you put to the Americans, would you like a king? They might say they didn't want the Hanoverians, who were the forerunners of the Saxe-Coburgs, and that became Windsor. So they didn't want that succession, but they were very keen on the Jacobean succession. But Charlie was too old at the time, Kareem, and he'd been drinking. He wasn't well.
Could you imagine if that was the case, it did happen, and how the direction of America could be very different today if they did go down?
Oh, yes. I mean, Mr. Trump would have to speak to the king, the descendants of Bonnie Prince Charlie. But I don't think he had kids.
Right, okay.
But there is a line of succession when you dig deeply enough. There is a line of succession. Now, the Scottish crown was different. The English crown, or the crown, since 1603, has a reputation for taking everyone's money and saying all that goes to the king. And it hasn't really been helped by the way the Crown Estates have been taking money off people for moorings for boats and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's not gone down too well. But I think if you started delivering a degree of money back to the people and saying, no, we're going to cut down on all this taxation thing. The king lives well, but the king doesn't take, and the present king doesn't take. The present king brings in billions. And again, people don't realize that. So you'll find, Kareem, that the people who want rid of the monarchy, I mean, at the moment, some of the personnel are not looking too healthy. You know what I mean? There's Ian saying, what did King Billy do that offends you? King Billy didn't do anything to me, but he did some terrible things to other people in his private life that would offend you. So there we are. I've said for years the Orms Lodge should really, if the truth came out about King Billy, they should think about taking him off their banners. Now, he was a Dutchman, you see, but he was married to James II's daughter. And when he came in, what was interesting about that, Kareem, as you'll well know, so-called the Glorious Revolution, 1688, what they did, they said to the king, listen, just to let you know that you're not going to be in charge, Parliament's going to be in charge.
Yeah.
You know, Parliament's going to be in charge, after the old Charles I, Charles II. See, they tried getting rid of the monarchy by executing the king. And then they had to bring it back. You know, they had to bring it back because the country, and it was cowards that executed the king. Absolute cowards. And even today, if you look at the clock at St. James, there's a black mark on it at 2 o'clock. And that's when they hanged the king.
Yeah.
And the saying is, he nothing common did or mean upon that memorable scene. And he asked if he could wear 2 shirts because he didn't want to be seen shivering with the cold in case people thought it was fear.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
You know, so that was him. Zero Cool saying they never hanged him. Well, they executed him.
Yeah.
So what did they do? Behead him. You know, but it has the same effect, believe it or not. So from that point of view, there's a lot to be looked at and what will stand scrutiny.
Yeah. See, you were saying about putting money back in. A suggestion that I would like, and you'll know it yourself, Scotty, going up and down Scotland, the amount of abandoned castles or big mansions, if they could be renovated, they're not putting them into tourism, it would just give so much back.
The UK brings in well over 200 billion in tourism. Mm-hmm. So that's not to be sneezed at, So don't necessarily listen to what the politicians are telling you because they're suiting themselves, yeah? And the news has got so depressing, people are switching off in droves. They put it on, another disaster, so-and-so's been killed. And you say, hang on, what about all the wonderful things that are happening as well? Let's hear about that, but they won't do it. So you've got that. So the media's kind of out the game now. They're kind of losing the plot, and the people are on to them. So what you've got there now, you were asking about the places needing renovated. Of course, all these castles, but I think Westminster should pay for, under reparation of damages for Culloden, for Linlithgow Palace to be completely renovated.
Yes, that'd be lovely.
It was set on fire. It was sacked just before Culloden by the king's brother, the Duke of Cumberland, who was called Stinking Billy.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are. So Ian's saying, so why do people admire him in Scotland and Northern Ireland, King Billy? Ian, they admire him because he had victory at the Battle of the Boyne in 1690 at the River Boyne over James II's forces, so we didn't get a Catholic on the throne. That's why they admired King Billy, but in those days the media wouldn't be digging into his private life, which was simply disgusting. So there you go. That's as far as I'm going with that one. But, yeah.
If they're really that desperate to know, Scotty, they can do a wee Google search.
They can do a wee search themselves and find out. And I think you'd find King Billy would just be wiped from history pretty sharpish. So there we are. But we're talking, I had a guy the other day on social media, and he said that Buchanan Street was named after a Lord Provost of Glasgow. And he said, but he also had links with slavery, so should we change the name? And I thought, no, don't go revising history like that. Otherwise, we'll lose the truth.
No.
So in a few years, if you did change the name and you called it McClue Street, you know, that's absolutely fine. But you would find that that bit of history that he was putting in about the Lord Prophets would just disappear.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we need to keep our history and say, no, we did that, but we also know that every other, this doesn't make it right. You know, several wrongs don't make it right, but we know that every other country did it, and we know that slavery started by Africans selling Africans.
Yes, and was it not the British Empire that actually ended a lot of it?
They ended it with the abolition of slavery in 1809, the emancipation of the slaves.
Yeah.
You know, and they got into it pretty sharpish.
Yeah.
You know, and you see the other way to look at it, and this is very interesting, Kareem. I'm very interested in this. The other way to look at it, you're an absolute gem, says Ian the Ranger. Isn't that lovely? The other way to look at it is when the slaves were freed, they had to find things to do by themselves.
Uh-huh.
You know, so suddenly if everybody said, yep, absolutely, you don't have to go to work now, that's you all finished, we would all go, so wait a wee minute, who's paying us? Oh, nobody, no, you're away now, that's you.
Yeah.
What does the world suddenly do? So there was that, and somebody was talking about children, the suffering of children working in markets, and apparently out in India they stopped the wee ones making carpets, and they were heartbroken. They didn't know what they'd done wrong.
Yeah.
And there's a big house in Yorkshire. It was a neighbour of mine in Yorkshire, 365 rooms, a calendar house. And there was an old gentleman and his son who used to do the lamps for the house. So they trimmed and filled all the paraffin lamps for lighting for 300 rooms, or how many rooms were open at the time. And somebody came in and said, this poor man works every day. This is disgraceful. Give him days off. And somebody found him in his day off in floods of tears in the lamp room and said, what's wrong, Joseph? He went, I don't know what I've done wrong. They wouldn't let me come to my work.
Yeah.
You know, it's all to play for. But the problem, Kareem, what's beautiful about what you and I are doing right now, we're discussing these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that Dafty that said there, what's the point in this? The point in this is because there's people like him out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so I think, yes, renovate the castle, strengthen. I mean, you know, I could scribble you down right now an outstanding manifesto for the future of Scotland, but I'm not a politician. And, you know, and who am I? You know, and all that sort of stuff. But I could scribble that down right now. And what you could also do with the likes of Linlithgow, it's between Edinburgh and Glasgow, get a flat up the top for the First Minister.
Yeah, why not?
Or for the King. You see, the court used to move about. So Dunfermline was the capital of Scotland. Scone was the capital of Scotland. The first king, Kenneth MacAlpin, was from Argyll, Kilmartin, Donad. He was crowned up what's called Donad Fort. It's a lovely little hill, well worth the climb, Kareem, if you're up for it with the dog.
Lovely.
Donad, D-U-N-A-D-D-E.
Right, brilliant. Well, listen, certainly a really informative night tonight, and I'm sure all the listeners have really enjoyed all the information you've given out, and you know that's what it's all about. You know, just people listening and.
Kareem, it's you, informative from you, because you know what to ask.
Well, thank you, Scotty. Well, listen, once again, thank you for taking my call. Have a great week. Thank you, dude.
Well, what about, just out of interest, what would you think? Let's go hypothetical here. And we said to the Windsors, listen, Scotland's thinking in going it alone. Nemo me impugn lacessit, Edinburgh Castle, the capital, up there. What would you think, if we did split the crowns and then you're the King of England and the Commonwealth and we've got our own guy up in Scotland? What would you think? What sort of person would do that? What kind of thing would be expected of the Scottish king?
I don't think King Charles would be too happy with that, to be fair. Because I do think the royal family have got a history with Scotland. But if it was to go down that road, I think there'd need to be a lot of discussion and debate. And I think a lot of people here, regardless, we're a country of mourners because we love to mourn about things, but there's a lot of people here that do like the royal family and they wouldn't want to, to see the back of them, So that I actually don't know the answer to, Scotty. I think it's quite a touchy question for some people.
Oh, it's a big one, yeah, but we should never run away from touchy things, Here's a lovely guy called Gordon, and he says, break up of the UK if you did that, Scotty. Now, what Gordon's missing is the UK is political. The Crown is British.
Yeah.
There's no such country as Britain. And when I hear the likes of the Prime Minister, I heard it last week, he did it last week, I love this country. And I think, what country are you talking about, PM?
Yep.
Because we've got 4.
Yep.
So the UK, if you're breaking up the UK, there's a big force for breaking up the UK because some people think it's just bad news running Scotland from Westminster and running it badly.
Yes, and it's true.
So I don't think there would be too many tears breaking up the UK if you left the crowns intact as one, the British Crown, the British Army.
If Scotland ever gets their independence, then for the people they always claim, well, I'm British. That is not going to change because we are on the landmass of Britain.
You're always going to be British. Always going to be British. Yeah. If you're Scottish, you are British. That's it. There's no way. It's axiomatic, as I say. You can't not be.
Yeah.
But again, they are confusing politics with the monarchy. The monarchy is apolitical, the Crown. And really, if we're honest about it, the Crown for many, many years has been the money.
Yeah.
So whenever they require big, big money, the Crown.
Yeah.
And if the Crown didn't have it, because the Crown has gone through periods over history of being almost bankrupt.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's how tough it's got over the piece.
Well, it's certainly interesting. There'll be a lot more, I'm sure, to come in the coming weeks and months for and against, and you're going to hear on the media and people as well. But I think the monarchy's here to stay. I think people can mourn and complain all they want. I don't see it going anywhere.
When people want rid of the monarchy, the next question would be why? If they bring up certain members of the royal family who are not anywhere near the monarchy, although they might be related, then, that's a red herring as well.
Okay. Well, interesting stuff, Scotty, once again. Thank you for taking my call and have a great week.
A privilege taking your call, Kareem, and dinky do, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Tarala. There we are. That's our Kareem. Always a good call.